I want to start with a quote by Haruko Murakami, which says, "And when the storm is over, you won't be able to remember how you managed to survive, how you walked through the storm. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over." Yeah. But one thing is for certain: when you walk out of the storm, you will not be the same person that walked in. Yeah. Very inspirational, very strong words, but very difficult to remember when we are all challenging storms ourselves. And I'm sure each one of us sitting or standing here has weathered numerous storms, yeah, and fought them and created victories for ourselves. Yeah. Today I'm here to talk about what I've fought so far and what I've gained in the process. I will not take my name because it's already been taken, and I want to talk about my identity, my astitva, without taking my name. But I'm a jack of all trades and I'm a master of some. And I'm very happy to redefine that original saying. Yeah. And when I talk about astitva or think about astitva, I think I'm still unraveling the many layers that there are. I still don't know who I am completely. But ever since I can remember, there has been fearlessness and limitlessness at the core of who I am. And when I say fearlessness, it's not like I'm on Jhansi Ki Rani and there is no fear. I think for me it means to move ahead and to stay determined despite all the fears that surround us at any point in time. Yeah. So that's what astitva means to me. I'm defined by the life experiences and by the sources of inspiration that I have around me or I've had around me. And today I want to share with you first, not as a matter of cribbing, but the life challenges that I've fought so far. And then I would want to talk about the sources of inspiration that have helped me be who I am today. So when I talk about challenges, I'm going to go way into the past. I was 1 year old when my entire family was in a terrible accident. And that left my father with a brain injury and a coma of 3 months. So as I was growing up, there was never an even-tempered environment at home. Everything was very crest and trough, crest and trough. As I was meandering the tricky path of teenage, there was a major career upheaval in my father's life where he was penalized, and I can't go into too much detail about it, but he was penalized for what, for standing his ground for something that was true, honest and right. That of course had an impact on all of us because it lasted for years. And eventually though, the truth came out, my father was exonerated, and life went on as it does. As life was inching towards normal, my father was in another accident which left him in another coma for about a month and a half. Yeah. And these are just 3 sentences, but when you go through something like that for many, many years, it's never very easy. And it doesn't leave you the same person that you were. So I used to be somebody that would radiate sunshine and was very happy, right? However, all of this began to get to all of us, the rest of my family, but to me as well. And I started to struggle academically. I started to resent being happy. And it wasn't so much anger, but it was exhaustion. Exhaustion from putting up a facade of normalcy, of everything is okay, because you have to keep a lot to yourself, you can't share too much. And when the career upheaval came into my father's life, that came with its own share of challenges, which was isolation. Yeah, people who you thought were friends just walking out on you. Financial crunch. You didn't know whether there was enough money to see you through. Also seeing some bad apples desert you completely when you're at your lowest. So it began to take a toll on all of us and me as well. Dad recovered, life progressed as it does, and by that time I was a journalist despite having studied science at my family's insistence. And journalism for me was freedom. It was the first opportunity when I was openly challenging people's screaming voices which tell you, what you can do, what you can't do, what a woman should do, shouldn't do as a profession. Yeah. A couple of years into it, however, some very murky people experiences made me shift gears, and I got into leadership facilitation. As life was looking positive, both personally and professionally, I discovered I had keratoconus, which is an eye condition which eventually leads to complete vision loss. Thankfully, there was treatment. That happened. Super painful, but that happened. I will never have 6x6 vision, but it gave me a lot of enlightenment about a lot of things as well. Yeah. Soon after, though, I was expecting a baby, and that came with numerous health complications, which I continue to battle even today. It was a touch and go for me in terms of losing my life. And the challenge hasn't been the health complications really, but it has been, people's judgment, people's unkindness, and sometimes pettiness. And the worst thing was that I let it get to me. I was, like I said, somebody that radiated sunshine. However, I realized over the years after weathering all the storms, my light began to dim. From being somebody that was fearless, I started to become very closed. I started to retreat into a shell. I developed fears. I developed a fear of being vulnerable. I developed a fear of failing, of not being open. And I developed, a fear of just not being good enough. Hence my thought of when somebody asks me to share, my first thought is always, who, me? What can I say? However, this began impacting my life majorly. I became a warrior. For years, I didn't publish anything that I wrote because I was very afraid of nasty feedback. For years, I was an artist in my head because what if I didn't have what it takes? Yeah. For years, I didn't learn how to drive because I wanted to look out of the window, or so I told myself. For years, I didn't learn how to ride a bike because people said, that's what boys do. And these were boxes that I was being force-fit into, not just by others, but by myself as well, because this was the only way that I knew how to shield myself from harshness, Anyway, I asked myself one day, because this was not my natural state of being and I was feeling suffocated. So I asked myself one day, how do I want to live? Do I want to live fearfully, or do I want to live truly? And the answer obviously was, I want to start being my true self. So I started pushing myself bit by bit. And it wasn't easy. Most days I would fail and I would fall. Most days I wouldn't want to move forward. Yeah. And that's when I would take a good look in the mirror, and I would take a good look at my mirror image, who's my daughter. And that would give me the impetus to keep going on. Yeah. I rediscovered the girl who was very curious, loved to learn, who loved to experiment with food, clothes, also beliefs. Yeah. Because my firm belief is, unless I try, how do I know? And how do I grow? So I began this transformation from being a warrior to a warrior. And like I said, it wasn't easy. I also found a spiritual anchor in Indian Buddhism, which helped me rediscover my true self, which was to help other people and to help uplift them. And the more I strove, the more I practiced this life philosophy, the more I was able to write my own golden story. My strength also comes from three big sources of inspiration that I have in my life, or I had in my life, starting with my grandfather, who was a freedom fighter, who was a philanthropist, who was an educator, a poet. And he taught me that anything is possible if you're determined enough. Through his own example, not by any stories, but through his own example of setting up schools, colleges, teaching the underprivileged every day, he taught me the importance of giving back where you are and as you are. For my father, he's my second biggest source of inspiration for exemplifying honesty and integrity, no matter what the world throws at you. If you know you're right, you stand your ground. Yeah? And that is not going to be easy, but you stand your ground. You fight your challenges because there is no other way. There's no other choice in life. Right? And my mother, for showing me that courage can be very quietly dogged. It doesn't have to be loud all the time. You don't have to be in people's faces to show you're courageous. You can just be doing what you have to do every day, steadily and quietly. When you have such inspiration around you, how can you not move forward? And that's what I started doing. Bit by bit, I began to publish my work. Today, I have self-published 5 books. Yeah. I no longer was an artist in my head. I began to learn how to sketch and paint. I began to learn how to drive. I discovered I love driving, and I'm much better than a lot of people of the other gender also out there, right? I learned how to ride a bike. I'm not much better than most people, but मुझसे ज़्यादा crashing styles के बारे में शायद ही किसी को पता होगा. Yeah, if there is a crashing style, I have mastered it. I've always been somebody that danced to the beat of her own drum. I've always been that. I write the rules of my own life, and I have my own definition of success. I don't care what somebody else tells me it is. I follow my own definition of success, unhurried, unworried, and I'm completely at ease. I think life is a journey that we should live. I don't see it as a rat race that I need to win. Today, what I do is I'm a life coach, I'm a leadership skills facilitator, and I've written it down because I tend to forget. I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, I'm a happiness, art therapy coach, I'm a mindfulness trainer, and very importantly, I paint professionally today. Yeah? So people ask me, "Itna sab kaise?" Well, I think, the biggest thing is that I don't dwell on what I cannot do. Instead, I think of what I want to do, and I go ahead and do it. Yeah? I don't dwell on my achievements or the opinions of other people either. People say, when I started doing multiple things, people started saying to me, if you do itna sab, nobody is going to take you seriously. And I thought, या तो हम कुछ चीज़ें अचीव कर लें या लोगों की बातें सुन लें. जिंदगी जीने आए हैं, डब्बे में फिट होने नहीं आए हैं. Yeah? And I want to end with a poem that I wrote on being limitless. And it goes like this. I'm a jack of all trades, I'm a master of some. My roles don't define me, they contribute to the picture. I can be anything I want. I can be many things if I want. I have many talents, some known, some yet to be explored. I have within me multitudes, celebrating and basking in the warmth of the learning that I have, wondering about all that I am yet to be. I am limitless. Thank you.